Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. And we're recording now. Hello, everybody. It's Janet Hickox and Jason Livanis with your weekly energy report. So, Jason, where are we going to start today? We want to start with the sun, I'm guessing, right?
Well, it's interesting. Like last week, it seems that the sun and the earth are in cahoots. And so if you give me your sun and earth hoo-ha, I will give you the card that I pulled that corresponds perfectly for it. And I laugh because I was running today, Janet, and I didn't have the chance to read any
Running,
of your
like really running?
running errands, because it's 80, as you can see from the window coming in here. It's 80 degrees here in New York City, New Jersey area. And I was running errands, and I didn't have the time to really look at the email about what the weekly energies were. So I just said, quickly, let me pull my cards, and then I'll read. And of course, they were in sync, which is wonderful.
Isn't it nice to know it works no matter which way you do it?
Yes.
Yeah, that tells you that that tells you there's something more at work than what we're causing to happen. So I like that.
I laughed because I'm like, well, son of a bitch, look at that. So
Yeah.
give me the earth and the sun today, or the sun and the earth.
We'll do that. First, let me say that this is for the week beginning 10/19 and running through the 24th. And, this has been sort of an interesting issue that you and I have had because the Human Design Week is really only about 5 days, 6 days at most. So it feels like we're no sooner doing one and then it's time to do another one. And so catching our breath, right? Ugh, feels like we're doing that. So this week, the sun sitting at the gate of values. In a little bit, I'm going to show a graphic of where all of these energies are sitting so people can get a pictorial of how your human design chart might be looking.
Okay.
But the sun is sitting at gate 50, which is all about the values that we share as a tribe. The gate 50 sits on the spleen, and it's part of the tribal circuit. And the tribal circuit is all about how we love, care, nurture, and protect one another as a community, as a family, or even as a society. So it's our shared values, and often it is the place in our chart where we also see what laws pertain to us. So, we in the United States have certain laws. But you may have certain rules and regulations in your family or in a community that you belong to. So in this particular channel are all of the things that we tend to value, the laws that we have, the rules that we have, and this is very powerful energy. And the human design has sort of we call this kind of the mama bear energy, I guess, because it's very protective. So you know how a mama bear protects the cubs at all costs, right? If you even come close to those cubs, what is she going to do? She's going to let you know, get away from my babies. And that is what this energy is really like this week in the sun.
So it's a very feminine energy.
It's extraordinarily. This is the feminine side, by the way, of the tribal energy. Thank you.
And I'm laughing because wait till I show you the card, you're going to laugh. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I love it. All right. So the earth now is sitting at a very interesting gate. In fact, I almost ignore this gate every time I see it come up, but it is kind of an interesting gate because it's part of the, they call it format energy. So it really is sort of forms the basis of human design in some ways. In that gate 30.
Why would you ignore it?
Because it's really kind of not very interesting. It's a gate that really, it's when we see it in someone's chart, it really speaks to a genetic mutation that's happening. And it's you as an individual passing that genetic mutation on to your offspring. So when the sun's transiting through it or something like that, I'm just thinking, well, maybe it's not all that important. But it really is in some ways because this is very mutative energy. This is the energy transformation.
It's still sacral?
It is still sacral, right? It's sacral energy coming down from the sacral down to the root center, and so it's an important energy on the genetic level, let's say. So does it mean much for you and me sitting here today? I think what it might do is encode us for when change is about to happen. So every year, of course, the sun transiting through here, and then we're going to see Mercury sit here and probably, other planets as time goes on. And it triggers perhaps the cause of a change or causes us to adapt to something new. So in that case, values and laws and regs and genetic mutation, perhaps it's time to see some changes on a societal level. I think it may go a lot deeper than what we think of on any given day. So I think it may be the beginning of some deeper changes for our society as a whole.
All right. So if I was going to throw a slight curve and ask you to look at those two energies, the sun and the earth, for this particular time, and you're going to make some kind of relationship corollary, what would you right off the cuff come up with?
A relationship corollary, I would say it's evolution.
Okay. Interestingly enough, you talked about the sun and it being a female card. Now, what you may or may not know about my specific, deck is that I use this karmic tribe tarot.
Karmic tribe or cosmic tribe?
Pardon me, cosmic tribe tarot.
Cosmically karmic.
And in my particular deck, when it comes to number 6 of the major arcana, for the lovers, mine is special. And not like Jerry's kid special, but special in the... Thank you for being old enough to know what the hell I just said. But anyway, I have a male and female lover. I have a female lover and a male lover. And I find it fascinating because when it comes up, it is almost 99.9% always appropriate. So today, I picked the lovers, and can you see boobies?
I see boobies on one.
And boobies on the other.
Yeah.
These are two women. And these are the lovers of the two women. Hence, feminine energy. Hence, this gate you were discussing. Tribal. What's interesting about this card is that it's called reflection. And it's in many senses, it talks about looking at yourself and what are you learning about yourself through this love. Because when you love someone, it's a mirror, almost always, trying to figure out what's going on. And here's the deal. With respects to the earth and with respect to the sun, is that very often doing this kind of work, kind of love work, can be a psychologically painful process. And it starts out slow and sometimes bumpy in the beginning, just like an awkward new love is. And I think you're going to relate to that because of the earth. You were saying, you made a reference, I think, in the email to me about it's a little slow going, a little bumpy at first, but it comes about. Is that correct?
Right. It's a gate where it's hard to get, it's kind of weird in the beginning.
Weird in the beginning, like any relationship where you don't know what to say, you're not sure what to do. But this this card really talks about how do you love yourself? How do you love others? Tribal, in a community. And it's that microcosm scenario going on. And very often, what was interesting, you talked about how it happens on a genetic level and going forth. Well, the more work you do on yourself psychologically, the more you change your physiological being, the more you pass that on. So if you don't take care of your shit, you're going to pass that shit on to your progeny, to your offspring. And that's just the way that goes. So we have the female love, the feminine love of the lovers for the sun and the earth this week. Nice. And it says to you, be brave, go ahead and do the work, build something from it, don't be afraid of it. But it might not be completely pleasant. That's okay.
Well, what's really interesting about love is that I didn't mention this about gate 50 where the sun is sitting, but gate 50 is also considered a love energy in that I guess you could think of love in terms of a swat on the behind kind of thing if you're out of line, right? Or if you're not obeying the rules, like if you're a kid and you're going to reach for that hot stove.
Or if you're going to the dungeon, it all depends what kind of love we're talking.
We're not going to the dungeon this week.
That's a different show, isn't it? Okay.
That's a totally different show. Okay. A totally different recording.
So, anywho.
But essentially, it's that love that holds the tribe together, right? Yes. The values and the shared rules and laws that we all agree. And
when you look at a tribe, when you look at the tribes, when you watch your National Geographic and stuff, it's the women who hold the tribe together.
Indeed, right? Where would we be without the women?
Absolutely, absolutely. They're the ones who bring that cohesive, they're the glue.
The glue
So
of the society.
that being said, tell me a little bit about the fun this period about Mars and Mercury. Let's talk about those two fun people.
Yeah. Now, Mercury, of course, in human design is really the same as it is pretty much in regular astrology, in that it's about communication. It's how we speak to one another. Gate 32 is where Mercury begins the week, and then it follows the sun right into gate 50. So we have sort of this mixed message, as we always do with Mercury, because part of the week it's going to be in the gate that the sun was in the week before, and part of the week it's going to be in the gate that the sun was in earlier in this week.
Now, I'm just confused. Right now, the viewers can see us both, right, on the split screen, or are you showing them also? Are you also showing them the chart? Okay.
No, I'm not showing them the chart yet, but I will show the chart. Maybe this is a good time to show the chart. Nah, right. I'll show the chart in a minute.
Okay.
But let's talk about the fact that Mercury is the ruler of our communication, right? And it is how we will interact with one another on the verbal plane, or in a verbal way. And so when gate 32 is the gate of continuity, it is the gate where we say, okay, we have this dream or this goal or aspiration, let's call it, and is it worth bringing this into actual reality? And the fear, because it's also a fear gate, is that it's not worth it, right? Or that if I even speak my dream, that someone's going to pick up that idea or that dream and they're going to run with the ball and I'm going to be left holding the bag, right? I didn't get my dream done because someone else did it. You know, imagine like having all these great ideas and you say to a friend, oh yeah, and this is what I'm going to do next. And then that person goes out and does it and you don't, right? That's kind of a part of what can happen here. So it's learning what is really worth our time and our energy. And Mercury is focusing us in that direction. And so if we're going to claim that something's worthwhile, then we actually have to throw our weight behind it. We actually have to do it. So be careful that you're not speaking about it to people and then not acting on it, and then they pick it up and act on it. So if it's worthy enough to be spoken of, it's probably worthy enough to be acted upon. And of course, as always, when you take action, I always want to say this to people, do it according to your type and your strategy. And if you don't know what that means, then it's time for you to get a human design reading or to listen to other broadcasts that we've done on human design.
And if they wanted to get a human design reading and or chart done, how would they do that?
They can do that by going to my website at living-astrology.com. And that's www.living-astrology.com.
Wonderful.
And if you need other validation about, of course, what's going on in your life, you can go to Jason for a tarot reading. And Jason, how do they reach you?
They can reach me at my email at zenstaging@gmail.com. Zenstaging is one word, Zen as in Zen Buddhism.
Okay, so he's going to be calm, cool, and collected.
You gave us our Mercury, right? Now talk to me about that funness of Mars. Or are you done with Mercury?
Well, Mercury, just one last, couple sentences about Mercury is that as we get into the later part of the week, it will move into gate 50 again.
With the sun.
Which is where the sun is at. And so they'll be having this little communication party between them about speaking to our values, right? Speaking to what the rules and the laws are. So what I find really interesting is that this week begins with the last of the presidential debates, right? October 19th. The planet Mercury won't yet be at gate 50. It'll be in 32. So I wonder if we see a change in the tenor of the debate. Like maybe we actually get to talk about some of the issues. Like maybe instead of throwing insults at each other or, being so focused on the missteps that either party has made, maybe we actually get down to the meat and potatoes of what is important to us. And
I'm betting not.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we will, although, Mars. Now, that takes me into Mars. Tell me when you have another card you want to pull, by the way.
I want to hear your Mercury and Mars relationship because the card that I pulled correlates to them together.
So Mars is doing this funny little dance. Remember I said on the 19th, we have Mars and Pluto in a conjunction at the gate of the fight, right? The struggle that we have either internally or between one another to enact change, to transform and evolve. So the energy in gate 38 with Mars is going to trigger Mars's confrontational side. It can't help but do that, right? So there's this whole idea of conflict and confrontation, but there's a slow change that happens here with Mars as it moves off into gate 54 as we get to the end of the week. So we have the beginning of the week still in that confrontational conflict energy, and then we switch to what I love to call gate 54, the gate of enlightenment. I hope that that's what it is. But it takes our ambition and our drive and moves us forward. So we finally see where maybe we can stop this struggle and we can actually make some forward steps. We can take and move ourselves in a direction as opposed to staying stuck in this polarizing duality where we just don't seem to be, going anywhere. Right? We just keep coming back. We keep circling back to these same topics. He said, she said, he slept with whom, and, said what to whom. Not that I defend either candidate. It's not about that. It's just how these energies are through this whole time period. It's been very, I have this wonderful word that I like, and it's called scritchy, where it's kind of scratchy, itchy, when you got that itchy on your back and you can't reach it, that kind of scritchy feeling. That's what this energy's been like, scritchy. Scritchy.
Okie dokie fanoki. So,
yeah.
And I will bring it out here. This is the Queen of Cups. And in my deck, you can see her. She is this wonderful mermaid. She's got her fins entangled and very much connected to the bottom of the ocean. So she's secure. However, the rest of her, as you see, she's sort of like this, hands in the air, and it is the cup, so it's there. We're not exactly forlorn. We're not in a bad place. There is the cup here being filled by God, but it's in the sea of turbulence. The name of the card, however, is fascinating. It's the Counselor. So one of the things that this card says to us is take stock of your emotions. Now, we talk very often about this ideology of feelings with the human design and feelings. Well, this is the one that is asking you to look at the emotional turbulence in your life. Now, why it's called the Counselor is because it says to you, you don't have to do it alone. You do not have to do this alone. And it talks about reaching out. If you think that you're looking and taking stock and you're feeling this gritchy, scritchy feeling that you're talking about. Scritchy. It's funny because I use the word gritchy. Isn't that interesting? You have a fever coming on and you just, So this card says, if you need to see a psychic, if you need to see your therapist, if you need to see a life coach, make sure you do that because
or your astrologer.
You are being really? If you are being protected and you are grounded, but the top part of you is doing this because you're not deciding what you want to keep and what you need to let go of. And this is a major problem for that card. The important thing to you in this card, it says to be a good listener. Don't just give counsel whenever you feel like it. It says listen. Listen to yourself, listen to others, and then you'll be able to make some sense of stuff. Because if not, you're going to look like her hands. As you see her, she's like, oh, God damn it. Now what? Don't be a victim to Mars. Don't be a victim to Mercury. Go ahead and play it cool. Stay grounded. And don't become tossed around in this emotional turbulence. It's not going to do you any good. It will actually bring you to confrontation. Because you're not coming to any peace. You're being thrown this way, being thrown that way, and all that's going to do, you talk about the pressure points and things building up, blah, blah, that's all this is going to do is make you lose your kishkas.
Your kishkas? Well, and that's really interesting because I see all this conflict and confrontational energies around me, and or people who are at the effect of this energy. And so by our being able to share this ahead of time, hopefully then people can stay in their bodies, stay grounded, stay cool, calm, and collected, and they don't have to buy into all the other stuff that's going on. It's just sort of, noise, the static on the radio kind of thing. They don't have to buy into that. But it's really interesting because it's very hard for most people to stay out of that conflict, to stay above the fray. I've even had to remind myself, I've had to remind myself a couple times this week, whoa, is this really a fight you want to get into? Right? Is this something that you really want to dive into?
Before we move into Venus, which thank God we have that this week, you said something last week on the radio show that we do every Thursday at 7 o'clock my time, your time, 4 o'clock on Blog Talk Radio, Living Astrology. There's my plug. But you mentioned something about Jason on Wednesday, batten down the hatches because it's going to be a fucker. Pardon the expression. It's going to be a real Pluto and everything else is happening. Now, is this correlating with the human design thing with respects to Mars and with respects to...
Yes, because they're both sitting at the same gate on the 19th. Actually, in human design, they're already sitting at that same gate, or they will be as this week rolls on, and they're sitting at the gate of fight. So the natural inclination that we all have is to join into the fight, right? To get to become a part of the struggle instead of standing back and allowing the struggle to work out through the people it's meant to work out through.
So once again, I'll allow you to be good witch, good cop, and I will be the bearer of bad news. Everyone tomorrow, Wednesday, zip it. When you feel yourself getting emotionally hijacked, just bite your tongue, turn on your heels, walk away. You can do it for the one day because I'm telling you, I already feel psychically. Let me give you, for instance, what's ramping up. I was talking to my 15-year-old nephew who just started high school. He happens to be a big dude. He's already got a size, 14, 15 foot. I mean, he's just one of these, welcome to being an endomorph. And yesterday, he broke up 4 fights.
Wow.
4. He's one of those ones that walks over and moves people physically like, no, we're not doing this. So I'm telling you, I'm psychically telling everyone, tomorrow, if I could bury my head in the sand, I would. Mm-hmm. So batten down the hatches for tomorrow, all of you viewers. Okay.
Right. And of course, in astrology, nothing happens just on, it's not always happening right on that day. There's a lead in the day, and then there's a little bit of a lead out. And so, this is part of that lead in still. Tomorrow's the actual day.
Gotcha.
And then we'll start, moving that energy forward. And by next week, things have really smoothed out. So I am not watching the presidential debate, by the way, just because I get so disgusted by the whole thing, the whole circus of it. But I will be interested to see what kind of the pundits are saying the next day as this energy begins to wane and sort of clear through the system. So
Venus.
Venus is always the lovely planet, right? Now, even when she sits at a gate that is a red flag gate or a gate of, problems.
What does that mean, red flag?
Well, in human design, there are gates that seem to always be challenging, like the gate 10, where you can either empower people with your words or you can slice and dice them with your words. So that's kind of a red flag gate. If you see that in someone's chart, you're going to go, ooh, okay, we're going to have this conversation.
Okay.
So Venus is she is sitting at sort of a red flag gate, but one that I'm hoping everybody can use the energy and kind of smooth through. And she's sitting at the gate of power. Gate 34, which if you are a manifesting generator, it's a part of who you are most likely, if you're the archetype anyway, of the manifesting generator. And this is energy that's very, very busy energy.
When does Venus go into this gate?
It begins tomorrow as well, right? It moves into the gate tomorrow. And then this is how we relate to one another, by the way. So are we going to empower one another? Or are we going to try to bring each other down? My guess is with Jupiter and Libra, one of the things we need to remember is that we want to empower people. That I guess any society, any country, any group is only as strong as their weakest link, right? So we have nothing to lose by empowering those of us or those people that are down, right? Or that are our weaker links. So maybe it's our children, or maybe it's our older people, whatever it is, we have the power now to empower, to use that word twice, people to become better than what they are, or to express themselves in new and valuable ways. So this helps strengthen our relationships, right? The empowering part of this. Let me check some of my notes here, because there was something else that was really important to us in this relationship, and that has a lot to do with the fact that when we are too busy to notice what's going on around us, like if you were too busy to talk to your nephew or notice what's going on in his life, he may not have had the ability to be able to break up a fight, right? He may have just gotten drawn into it. So try, everybody, not to be so busy that you forget that there are people around you and they might be experiencing pain. And you may be the key to helping them smooth through their life. So busy is okay, but don't forget to come up and breathe. And for those of you who have busy people in your lives, don't be afraid to say to them, hey, hello, I need your attention, right? I'd like to speak with you. I have a problem I really want you to help me with. Don't be afraid to do that. And those of you on the busy end of things, don't be afraid to slow down. What's your card?
Me like you long time. Now, what I loved about this is that this card, which is called the Four of Cups, it's called luxury, which is interesting. If you'll see here, these 4 cups, this wonderful green emerald-like flowers coming from it, and it's hard to see here, but I'm going to bring it up close. It's actually the spirit of Jesus Christ.
Oh, now I see it. Okay. I didn't see it at first.
In my deck, there are really only 2 cards that I refer to as karmic cards. Now, you might be thinking, how are you going to tie this in? Stay with me. More time on the card. You can see there's Jesus Christ, our Lord Savior, who died on the cross for our sins, and hallelujah. And there is these wonderful bounty happening here. Now, it's not excessive. So it's not the 8-10 of this. It's not all this. However, what this card says to you is to take a moment. Take a moment and do that gratitude journal to see how blessed you are. Take a moment to say, hey, wait a second. I should not be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because I have a roof over my head. I have food on my table. I have clothing on my back. When we stop and think of how many people don't even have those basic necessities, this card is saying to you, you worked for all of those things, whether or not it's karmic scenarios that are coming to fruition now. To truly, truly be grateful. And when you're able to be grateful, to take a moment, and that's what this card is saying. Take a moment, take stock, exactly what you were saying before, and go, oh, wow, I can afford to look at my luxury. There are people who don't have water, don't have food, don't have clothing, don't have a roof. That's a luxury, regardless of what we think of here in the United States about needing to have our Porsches and our blah, 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 blah. Now, there is a little fly, as I've said before, in the ointment here. Remember how you talked about the doers and the people that are busy?
Yeah, yeah.
This card can be associated with all of our good friends out there, those generators that don't know when enough is a fucking enough.
Open roots, open spleen.
The doers that keep doing to the point of exhaustion and don't realize it. The warning in this card, Janet, is embrace your luxuries, embrace your abundance, but do not force them or become overly attached. Because for the people who have the OCDs, for the people who don't know when enough is enough, there is the chance of dipping into your addictions. Too much drinking, too much drugging, to try and escape. I cannot do that because I am going to have the extra this. I'm going to buy the extra shoes that I can't afford. I'm going to buy the...
Oh, overindulging.
This card says to you, take stock of what you have. Don't overdo it. Don't become too attached to it. Once you're able to say to yourself, I'm grateful for this, then you can look at others who maybe aren't as fortunate and help them. and share that heart chamber that Jesus Christ, Buddha, Jehovah, all of the ascended Lord Masters, that chamber of the heart, which is very important. So this card is luxury, and how nice, luxury and Venus, of course, we think of all that, wonderful stuff.
Yep.
To take it and to acknowledge what you have without abusing it.
Nice. Thank you. That's a great card.
Those are the 3 cards that I've pulled for you this week.
Great. Now, I wanted to really quickly show people, I'm going to share my screen. So just a moment here while I switch over to share what. Tell me, Jason, are you seeing this chart?
Yes, I can.
So for those of you out there, this is a human design chart. It's blank. It's purposefully blank. But what I wanted to show you is these black lines show us what connections are being made this week. And I wanted to go down here to this center. Everything else seems to be hanging, as we've got planets like Neptune is sitting at gate 37. We hardly ever talk about Neptune. It doesn't move very much, so things aren't really changing much around that one. Here's gate 5. Saturn is sitting there. Gate 34, where Venus is going to be sitting. Gate 50, where the sun is and where Mercury will be. Notice gate 54 later in the week, where Mars is going to be sitting. It closes the gap with gate 32, and it causes the spleen to become defined, and it causes the root center to become defined. So for anybody out there who has an open spleen or an open root, suddenly you have access and are broadcasting energy from those 2 centers because of the planets that are temporarily sitting there. So for some of you who have these centers open where enough, it's hard for you to tell when enough is enough. When is that enough doing? When is it time to let go of something? Now suddenly you will have access to seeing perhaps where some of that overindulgence might be, where some of the things that you're holding on to too tightly, beliefs, maybe it's people, maybe it's things, and maybe you can find your way to release them. And that's because these 2 centers become defined. Here's the spleen. If you can see my cursor moving around, that's the spleen. And this would be the root center. But they become both defined because there's a gate at one end and a gate at the other end. So can you see that, Jason?
I absolutely can. Can you talk to me, strangely enough, about, because I never see that circuitry happening. It looks like off of the sacral, you have 34 completing up to that strange white line, which doesn't have a gate. It's just sort of like a connector. What does that mean?
It's where 34 hangs from.
Oh.
So 34 is being defined by Venus, but it's only halfway. It doesn't meet up with gate 20, it doesn't meet up with gate 10, and it doesn't meet up with gate 57. There's no other planet sitting there, so it's just hanging.
Understood. I just, because I'm a novice, it looks complete to me, but obviously it's not.
No, it is not. It's not complete because it's not completing its way to a different center.
Gotcha.
Right. Wonderful. So remember, everybody, too, the hanging gates are the places where you will electromagnetically be drawn to other people. So if the sun is sitting at gate 30, or no, Venus is, sitting at gate 34, maybe you have gate 57, that's going to complete that channel for you.
Yep.
And if you have maybe gate 20, but it's not connected, suddenly you've got connections that you don't normally have access to, but that's going on all the time. So if you notice, for example, like one week that maybe you feel better about speaking and talking to people is much easier, then maybe there's a throat gate that got completed, and so you now have access to energy temporarily that makes you feel differently about speaking, let's say.
Wonderful.
So this is always happening. But also planets in transit can complete centers all on their own. So like I have a defined root center, but an open spleen. So right now through this gate, I suddenly have access to a defined spleen. So maybe I can get rid of some of the stuff on my desk this week. Woohoo!
Fat chance.
Fat chance.
Right. So,
anyway, so I just want to start sharing a little bit of the charts and the dynamics here. And don't worry if it gets you all confused out there, because we'll talk about it more in weeks to come. And you can always email me at janet@living-astrology.com to ask any questions. And of course, when you listen to these broadcasts, sometimes it would be a whole lot easier if you had your own chart in front of you. If you need your chart, you can go to my website at www.living-astrology.com and request your free chart.
Wonderful. Now, bring me back in for a moment.
Sure. To the chart, or can I stop sharing the chart?
Stop sharing the chart and bring my face back. Okay. So that being said, we sort of ended up this week with Madam Venus, and it gives us a nice moment to go into this week's radio show.
Right.
Tell everybody what we're going to be talking about, because it's very related.
It is very related, as in partially this last week we've had planet Venus sitting at the gate 14, which is a gate of money. And so it got me to thinking about what subjects would people want to hear about next. So I started looking at how finances are tracked through our astrology charts. As I already knew about, I really do know about how it was tracked, but it was really interesting to sit and look piece by piece and then, create a whole picture of what people's money looks like through their astrology charts and through their human design. So we're going to be talking about that on Thursday in the radio show. And that means that the people that we do choose to do readings with, we're going to be looking at that as a financial picture and
Wonderful.
Going through some of those things. And of course, you'll be doing card readings for people as well.
Absolutely.
Along those lines.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so join us at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock Pacific, on Blog Talk Radio. And
7 o'clock Metropolitan Time.
Metro Eastern Time.
Yeah.
So, yes, so here we are at the end of our weekly energy report. Jason, I really love doing it this way, by the way.
Me too. I learned a lot by doing this. It was interesting, for instance, to watch you bring the Earth's chart up. It looks like none of the centers are defined for a reason.
Right, because...
Well, we could talk about that next week, because I know you don't want to go too much over on this and make it too lengthy. So the recap again for everybody. Remember, don't forget, we have got the women for Sun and Earth, the lovers. We have the wonderful Queen of Cups, the counselor, Mars and Mercury. And then at the end, we have the karmic
fruits of our labors.
Fruits of our labors. Take stock, slow down, listen to people. And that's it for me this week. Thank you, lady.
Thank you, Jason. Take care, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.